I've preached the importance of budgeting for a long time. Budgeting changed my life for the better, and now I'm helping other people use budgeting to change their own lives. Unfortunately, there's still a misconception that life on a budget means a person can't enjoy themselves. Not true. A budget should include the things a person enjoys, in moderation, of course. In this episode, I'm sharing my current budget non-negotiables and why they matter to me. I'm also going to share a few things I want to become budget non-negotiables, but they haven't made their way into my budget just yet. I encourage you to get clear on your own budget non-negotiables and work to make sure they've been factored into your budget. Welcome to the City Girl Savings Podcast. I'm Raya Reeves, founder and finance coach of City Girl Savings. I turned my life around with budgeting many years ago, and now I'm on a mission to help others do the same. I fully believe that you can enjoy your life on a budget, and this weekly show will focus on the intersection of money and the city girl lifestyle. Join me every week along with some special guests as I share my experiences, advice, and guidance on navigating life and money as an experience-loving millennial. Now, before we dive in, I want to quickly answer a City Girl Solutions question that came in. And the question is, when should someone start investing? This is a great question. The fact that you are asking the question is already a good sign. My first piece of advice is for you to figure out if you already are an investor. If you are currently contributing to a retirement plan, then you are already investing. And I think that it's important that you know where your retirement funds are being invested. So make sure you spend some time actually looking through your company's 401k or IRA or retirement plans to understand your investment options. And if you are a little behind on saving for retirement, make sure you get that where it should be. At minimum, everyone should be contributing up to what their employer will match. Retirement may seem far away, but it's very important to plan and save for it now. Now, if you have retirement figured out, and you're ready to maybe invest on a bigger or different scale, my advice is to pay off your debt first. Debt usually comes in the form of high interest payments. So the more debt you have, the more you are paying in interest on that debt. And as of right now, average credit card interest rates are 18%. The stock market historically sees about an 8 to 10% return. So that means if you have debt, you are paying more in interest than you would earn had that money been invested. So make sure you are paying off your debt first and foremost. Another thing you'll want to do before you start investing is build up a savings. When you invest your money in the stock market or in any type of investment, if you are taking that money back prematurely because an emergency comes up, it's usually going to cost you. We want to avoid that at all costs. So if you already have a savings in place that you can go to should an emergency comes up, then the money that you actually put towards your investments can sit and grow. Ultimately, the goal is to eventually get to a place where you can invest, right? So your debt is paid off, or at least your high interest debt is paid off, and you have a savings that you're comfortable with. But the goal for investing is to build long-term wealth. So it would not be wise to invest money that you know you'll need in a short amount of time. Okay, so let's get into today's episode, my budget non-negotiables. So I have kind of broken these non-negotiables down into two categories, priorities and discretionary. So let me spend a little bit of time explaining the difference. So my budget non-negotiables that I consider priorities, these are things that aren't really discretionary, but I technically don't have to spend money on them. They have just become a priority for me and therefore a budget non-negotiable for me. The first one, Pest control. Don't laugh. But I am not a fan of bugs. And living in Texas, there are scorpions, there are crickets, there are mosquitoes, there are wasps, there are bugs everywhere. And I don't do well with bugs. So I pay pest control on a quarterly basis. Every quarter, they come out, spray the inside and outside of my house. And I 100% budget for this. I don't necessarily have to have pest control on a quarterly basis, but for me, it's very important that I do not see bugs in my living area. So this will always be a budget non-negotiable. The next budget non-negotiable I have that I consider a priority is health insurance. So since I work for myself full time, I don't have an employer insurance plan. I have to go out into the marketplace and get my own health insurance, and it's not cheap. I technically don't have to spend money on health insurance. Sure, I'll have some sort of tax penalty if I don't, right? But people get away with not having health insurance all the time. For me, though, it's not worth the risk. I do consider myself a healthy young woman, but anything can happen at any time, and I would rather factor this into my budget on a monthly basis and be prepared. If nothing happens, fantastic. If something does happen, at least I know I have insurance that can help cover the costs. Medical expenses, with or without insurance, are insane, especially in the United States. So paying monthly for health insurance, if it means that I don't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars on unexpected medical costs, is 100% worth it to me. And my final budget non-negotiable that I consider a priority is for my business, and it's the City Girl Savings office space. So I have a dedicated space for City Girl Savings. It's been a little over a year at the time I'm recording this episode that we've had this space, and I absolutely love it. Before I had this office space, I had been working from home for 9 years. This was before City Girl Savings was started, but I had been working remote since I moved back to Austin in 2013. So I never was able to separate home and work. Sure, I have an office in my home, but I would just open the door and I'm home. Then I would go in the door and I'm back at work. And I wasn't able to separate the two after so many years. So investing in this office space for City Girl Savings was great for not only my mental well-being, but so that I can leave the house, go somewhere, feel productive when working, and then go home and relax and be in my safe space. Got a money question you want me to answer on the podcast? I'm starting a new segment on the show called City Girl Solutions, where I answer any questions you have for me. Money, business, life, you name it. Submit your questions at citygirlsavings.com/QA and get your question answered by me in a future episode. And did you know that we have so many free money resources on our blog, Instagram, and TikTok channels? Find us across the internet at City Girl Savings. So those were my budget non-negotiables that I would consider priorities. Now I want to talk about my budget non-negotiables that I consider purely discretionary. So these are things that are truly discretionary. There is no underlying need to have them other than I simply want them. So the first one is lash extensions. So I do categorize lash extensions as fun spending, and I make sure in my monthly budget that I have enough allocated to fun spending to cover the cost of these lash extensions and some other things that may come up throughout the month. For me, I don't always put on a lot of makeup. I don't always get ready every day. That's a whole other topic, but having my lashes always done makes me feel like I already have a step accomplished without me having to do anything other than pay for it every couple of weeks. So having lash extensions has made a huge difference just in how I feel about myself when I'm not really getting ready. Hopefully that makes sense. But if not, this is literally what matters to me. It makes me feel good. It's purely discretionary, but I wouldn't have it any other way. The next budget non-negotiable that is absolutely discretionary is, can you guess? The iced coffees. I am sure you already knew that. You probably were expecting me to say that first. It's second. Okay, iced coffees. So I categorize iced coffees under meals out. So I make sure every month that I have money allocated to meals out, which includes iced coffees. I would say I typically average 2 to 3 iced coffees a week. There are times where it's more like 5 or 6, and there are other times where it's maybe just 1. But regardless, I'm always going to get an iced coffee, and I have to include it in my budget, because if I don't, I am literally setting myself up for failure. No, thank you. And my final budget non-negotiable that I would consider discretionary is travel. Now, I'm not traveling on a monthly basis, but I do save for travel on a monthly basis, even if I don't have a trip planned. So when I have a trip planned, I'm very intentional about how much needs to be saved for that trip. But when I don't have a trip planned, I am making it a point to at least put something into my travel savings account. Whether it's $50, $100, it really just depends on how the month actually goes. But I do make it a point to save for travel on a monthly basis. Now, if you think you struggle with prioritizing discretionary spending or getting clear on what discretionary items should be non-negotiables in your budget, I want to make sure to mention that you should listen to episode 17, which is why your budget should always include the things you love. Like I mentioned earlier, people have this misconception that budgeting means they can't have fun, they can't enjoy life, and it is not true. But in episode 17, I make sure to really dive into why your budget should always include the things you love and why it's so important from a consistency perspective, but also a life perspective. We only have this one life as far as we know, so may as well include the things we love. Okay, now I want to spend a little bit of time on things that I actually want to become budget non-negotiables, but I'm not quite there yet. And when I say I'm not quite there yet, I basically mean that currently all of my income is allocated accordingly. So if I add new things into the mix, I don't have the income to support those additional things. I use a zero-based budgeting system, so I budget my income down to the penny. So anything outside of what I currently have budgeted, I have to figure out how to consistently bring in more income to cover those things. So that's what I mean when I say I want them to become budget non-negotiables, but my budget doesn't allow for it just yet. So the first thing is regularly working with a business coach or in a business group coaching program. So I have done business group coaching programs on and off for quite some time. I've taken online courses. I'm constantly investing in my growth and knowledge when it comes to running a business, but it's on and off. I don't consistently work with a coach or partake in a program, but I want to. And in fact, I'm currently looking for the right fit. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know. But that is definitely something that I would absolutely want to become one of my budget non-negotiables for my business. We're just not there yet. The next thing that I want to become a budget non-negotiable, and this is for my own personal budget, is a Roth IRA. So I've had my Roth IRA for a few years now. I set it up the year before I left corporate because I knew I would be leaving corporate. But since I've had my Roth IRA, I have maxed it out each year, but it's not a non-negotiable. It's more of a if my situation allows at this point. And fortunately, my situation has always allowed for me to contribute and max out my Roth IRA, but again, it's not a non-negotiable yet. However, it is a top priority in my mind when I do make extra money or when additional projects or opportunities for more money come in. The first thing I think of is, okay, I need to max out my Roth IRA. It's just not included in my monthly budget currently. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm asking myself that question. Basically, I don't have the extra money to contribute to my Roth IRA on a monthly basis. Therefore, I don't contribute to it on a monthly basis. However, if extra income comes in, which it has, and I'm sure it will continue to, the first place that extra income goes is to the Roth IRA. Now, everyone's situation will look different. We all have different incomes. We all have different expenses, but we should all have budget non-negotiables. When you set your budget non-negotiables, commit to them. Don't feel bad for spending money on them. Be glad you can spend money on them and it's in your budget. It's also okay if those negotiables change over time. I'm sure that if and when I have kids, I will have entirely new non-negotiables, but we're not there yet. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you take some time to set your own budget non-negotiables. Thank you so much for tuning in to City Girl Savings today. I hope you feel empowered and inspired to master your money as you make your way to your dream life. Make sure you subscribe so you're the first to know when a new episode comes out. I truly value your thoughts and feedback, so please leave a review and let me know how this podcast has impacted you. Can't wait to chat soon and make it a great day.